Okay, this is exam 7 from the McGraw-Hill 10 ACT practice tests. Question 1. Which point in the standard coordinate plane below has the coordinates 2, -5? So this is x and y. So we go over 2 and we're down 5. The point is point C. Assume that the statements in the box below are true. Considering only the statements in the box, which of the following statements must be true? Alright, let's see. Michael is a high school student who attends Tarrytown High School. And all students who attend Tarrytown High School have a student ID. So Michael has a student ID, yeah. The balance of Juan's savings account quadrupled during the year. At the end of the year, Juan withdrew $300. The resulting balance was $400. What was the balance in the account before it quadrupled? So let's let x be the balance in the account originally before it quadrupled, right? Then when it quadrupled, that made it 4x, right? And then the end of the year, he took away $300, and then the resulting balance was 400. So we build up this equation where on the left side we have the final amount, right? And on the right side we have the final amount. So then, setting those equal, I simply add 300 to both sides. The 300 cancels, we get 4x equals 700. Divide that by 4. You find x is 700 over 4, which when you use your calculator, right, for 700 divided by 4, you end up with 175. For what value of a is this equation true? Well, I could distribute the 3. Get 3a plus 15 minus a is 23. So 3a minus a is 2a. Okay. Then I subtract 15 from both sides. So 2a is equal to 8. A is equal to 4. On the real number line below, numbers decrease in value from right to left, and y is positive. The value of x must be what? Let's see. So we know that y is a positive number. So we know that x has to be less than y because it's to the left of y. And it's a normal number line. Left to right is increasing. In the triangle below, AB equals BC. So we have this, which means these are also equal. The measure of angle B is 55. What is the measure of angle C? So if these are equal, we call each one x. So that means that 2x plus 55 has to equal 180. Right? All three angles added together. So then you subtract 55 from both sides. You get 125 is 2x, so x would be 62.5. Right? So here you have two options. One option is to distribute this 3. So 3x minus 6 is -7. Add 6, you get 3x is -1. Divide by 3, you get x is -1/3. Which of the following is a factor of this polynomial? So we try to factor it trinomially. We get an x here and here. Bring this sign down to make it plus. This tells you the signs are each different from each other, so this one must be minus. We're looking for two things that multiply to 18. So if you want, you could start listing them out. 2 and 9, 3 and 6. This is the group that combines up to 3. Always put the bigger number first. And so the factors are x plus 6. Okay. A line in the standard coordinate plane is parallel to the x-axis. Right? So right away, it would be something like this line right here, which is at a height y equal to, let's say, 2. Right? So it's going to be y equals some number if it's parallel to the x-axis. So the only one that's possible is choice A. Right? This thing is equivalent to. So for this, I could use my cross multiply method of combining fractions. So we do this first cross multiply, we get 10r, and then we put the symbol in the middle, plus. We do the other cross multiply, 12s, and then we multiply the product of the denominators, 15, and that matches with choice J. A recipe calls for 1/3 cup of sugar to make one 9-inch pie. According to this recipe, how many cups of sugar should be used to make 3 9-inch pies? Okay, so a third of a cup of sugar to make 1. How many to make 3? So a third of a cup to make 1. How many to make 3? So we can cross multiply this, and we get 1 equals x. Right, 3 times a third is 1. 5 minus 3 absolute value is just 2. Minus 2 minus 6 is negative 4 in absolute value. Negative 4 in absolute value comes out as a 4, and then 2 minus 4 is negative 2. If Ryan traveled 20 miles in 4 hours, so 20 miles in 4 hours, and Jeff traveled twice as far, that is 40 miles, in half the time, that is in 2 hours, what was Jeff's average speed? So Jeff's speed was 20 miles per hour. Choice C. If x is negative 5, what's the value of this? Plug negative 5 into both. So you get 2 negative 5 squared plus 6 negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25 times 2 is 50. And then this comes out to negative 30, so that equates to 20. For what value of a is b equal 4 a solution to this equation? B minus 2 is AB plus 16. So if B is 4, I could plug that in for B. So here I get 4 minus 2, and here I have basically 4A. Of course, 4 minus 2 is just 2. And then I could subtract 16 from both sides. And so I get 4A is equal to negative 14. Divide by 4. And I find A is equal to negative 7/2, which is 3.5 as well. Figure below, S and T are points on RU. What is the ratio of the area of square STVX? STVX. So it's this 3 by 3 square. Okay? So that area is 9. So I already have my numerator. Ratio is going to be 9 to the other number. The area of the parallelogram, RUVY. So the whole thing. Okay. Well, we need the formula for area of parallelogram, and it's going to be the average of the bases. So you add them and divide by 2, multiply that by the height. So, well, what is the base? Oh, sorry, that's for the trapezoid. For a parallelogram, it's just simply base times height. So base would be 11, right? The height would be 3, so you get 33. So looks like it's going to be 9 to 33. That doesn't seem right, does it? So the area of parallelogram RUVY, 11 by 3, 33. Oh, could this be simplified? So 3 times 3, and this is 3 times 11. So yeah, the first 3 will cancel, so it's just 3 to 11. Okay. What is f of negative 3? That means plug negative 3 in for x. So 2 negative 3 squared minus 6 negative 3 plus 7. Negative 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. This becomes plus 18. So 36 and 7 is 43. A map is drawn so that 1.2 inches represents 50 miles. Right? How many miles does 1.4 inches represent? So you use the units to set it up, and the units have to match top and bottom. Once you do that, you can then erase the units. Okay? And from here you could of course cross multiply. So the x comes to here, and the 50 ends up going up here, timesing that. So calculator, could do 50 times 1.4, and then we divide the result by 1.2. So we get 58. For this one, what I like to do is I like to write out the first item, 3xz squared minus 17z, and then we have to distribute the minus sign here. And I'm going to group them so that they're underneath the right thing. So like minus 4xz squared, that will go here, and minus 5z, that will go here, and then plus 2x third. That will go here. And then we get, so 7x third, and we get minus xz squared, and we get minus 22z. So that matches up with choice A. In the standard coordinate plane shown below, what is the distance on the y-axis in units from point A to point B? So the y-axis distance is just the change in y. So the y-coordinate here was 8, the y-coordinate here is 3. So that change is a change of 5 units. So I would certainly choose either J or G, right? Since it says from A to B, I would say minus 5 would be probably a better choice, right? What is the distance all along the y-axis? Yeah, we'd have to go down 5, right? Which of the following is not a solution to this? Well, I could tell you that the opposites are always going to be solutions. So 5 is a solution, 3 is a solution, negative 3 is a solution, and then negative 9 is a solution. So D is our best choice. PR is between 0 and 1. Which of the following cannot be true? Okay. Let's see. Can P and R both be negative? I would say yes. Because if you multiply two negatives, you do get a positive. So that's fine. What about J? Can P and R both be less than 1? Yeah, they could both be a half, for example. So that's fine. Can P and R both be less than negative 1? I would say that that's not possible, right? Because if I have, for example, negative 2 and negative 2, that would make a positive 4. In particular, this number is going to be larger than 1, right? So if n equals 10, which of the following represents 552? So 550 and 2, right? So this, if n is 10, this would be 5 times 10. So it's 5 times n. And this would be 5 times 100, which is 10 squared. So it would really be 5 times n squared. So this is probably going to be the answer. And that's choice C. What is the value of b in the solution of the system below? Alright, so let's see. Right, so if we're looking for b, we'd like to get rid of a. The best way to do that is to multiply a negative 3 on the bottom. So we get minus 3a, and then minus 9b equals positive 12. And then we combine that with the first line. So 3a with minus 3a cancels out. Negative b and negative 9b is negative 10b. And then 18 and 12 is 30. So if I divide that by negative 10, I get b equals negative 3. Which is the following is equivalent form of this. So I have x plus x times x plus x plus x. So these makes 3x, right? X, and x added together is a 3x. And then you have 3x here times x, so that's 3x squared. Okay. Those you can't combine because they're not like terms. So that's choice C. Due to inflation, a refrigerator formerly sold for $4.50 now sells for 7% more. So we need to do a 7% increase. So if you know multipliers, you start with 1, then you add the decimal equivalent of the percentage. So the decimal equivalent will be 0.07. So our multiplier would be 1.07 that we have to multiply the original amount by. So times 450. So that'll get us the answer. Another way to do it is to take the original amount and then add the 7% of the original amount. So that's sort of the old-fashioned way to do it without multipliers. And that matches up with choice G. In a three-dimensional space, the set of all points 5 units from the x-axis. So here's your x-axis. So you can go 5 units above the x-axis, and you can go 5 below the x-axis. So you get a set of parallel lines. An overlay of an accessibility ramp of a building is placed on an xy coordinate plane so that the x-axis aligns with the horizontal. Okay. The line segment representing the side view of the ramp goes through points -2, -1, and 16, 2. What is the slope of the accessibility ramp? Alright. So the points -2, -1. So, and also the points 16, 2. So over by 16, up by 2. Alright. So this is kind of what the ramp will look like. And so really we just need to find the slope of these 2 points. Okay? So change in y over change in x. So the y value goes up by 3. The x value goes up by 18. This can be reduced to 1 over 6. Alright, this number, 0.002, is 100 times as large as some number x. Find x. So we divide this by 100, divide this by 100, and calculator can help, or you can just do it by hand if you know what you're doing. So basically this tells you to move the decimal twice to the left. So we need 2 extra zeros in here. 1, 2. So we should have a total of 4 zeros preceding the 2, and that's what this is doing here. Don't have to count the 0 in front of the decimal. The volume of a sphere is determined by this formula, where r is the radius. What is the volume of a sphere with a diameter of 12? If the diameter is 12, that goes all the way across the circle, so half of that is the radius. Radius is 6. We plug that into the formula. 4 pi 6 cubed over 3. Alright, so calculator, 4 times pi equals times 6 to the third equals, divide by 3 equals. So you get 904. Oh, and I wasn't supposed to multiply the pi in, so I'm going to then divide by the pi. And I get 288 pi. Alright, which of the following is equal to this? So for these, I do my cross multiply method. So I'm going to do this first. 1 times 4 is 4. Then I put the symbol in the middle, minus. I do the other diagonal here, which is 3. And divide by the product of the denominators, which is 12. Same thing for the bottom. 1 times 4 is 4. Then I put the symbol in the middle, which is plus. And then 3 times 1 is 3. Divide by the product, which is 12. So this is just 1 over 12, and this is just 7 over 12. Then I do a keep change flip, making this 12 over 7. The 12s cancel out, and I get 1/7. Of course, you could have done it in the calculator too. One traffic light flashes every 6 seconds. Another flashes every 9 seconds. If they flash together and you begin counting seconds, how many seconds after they flash together will they next flash together? So I think all of those are multiples of both 6 and 9, right? So we just want to find the lowest multiple of both, the least common multiple, and that by inspection is just going to be 18, right? Alright, so here we have to solve for x, so we subtract 5 from both sides. That gives us rad 2x is equal to 4, square both sides, 2x equals 16, divide by 2, x equals 8. In the figure below, what is the sum of p and q? So we're finding p plus q. There's a few ways you could do this. Perhaps the easiest way is to use the sum of the exterior angles. But the caveat here is that this is not an exterior angle because it's equivalent to the one inside here. So these are vertical, right? So perhaps we shouldn't do it that way. So instead, we'll do it the other way, which is to take its supplement here. So the supplement of p is 180 minus p. That would go inside here because these two have to add up to 180, right? Similarly, we get 180 minus q for this guy. So now when we add 180 minus p plus 180 minus q plus 105, that has to equal 180. So I can cancel out one of these 180s by subtracting it from both sides. I get 0 here. I could combine the 180 with the 105 to get 285. So minus p minus q plus 285 equals 0. So I can then swing this over to this side, making it negative 285. Alright, negative 285. And then I could switch every single sign, making them all positive. So the sum of p and q would simply be 285. How many ordered pairs of real numbers will satisfy this equation? My answer would be infinitely many, because I know this represents a line, okay? Because x and y, neither of them are squared, right? They're both first power. So that means I could, if I wanted to, put it into the form y equals mx plus b. So I know it's a line, and a line has infinite amount of points. Okay, so the points that satisfy it is infinite. However, if there was another line, then the point where they intersect would only be 1 point, usually. How many different positive 3-digit integers can be formed if the 3 digits must be used in each of the integers? Alright, so for my first integer, let's say my first digit, which is, let's say, the hundredths digit, I have choice between 3, 4, and 5. So I have 3 possible choices. But then once I place that number, let's say I placed 5, now I have only 3 and 4 to choose from for this digit. So I only have 2 choices. And then here, the last one, I have 1 choice. So if I multiply these together using counting principle, I'll find that I have 6 choices altogether. Each of the 3 lines crosses the other 2 lines as shown below. Which of the following relationships involves angle measure in degrees must be true? So let's see. So which 3 angles have to add up to 180 degrees? That's a pretty good question. Well, let's see. So starting with angle 2 plus angle 7, right, plus angle 12. Well, naturally that would add up to 180 degrees because they form a triangle, right? So the next one is using angle 4, angle 5, and angle 10. So those are actually equal to the 12 and 7 and 2 because of vertical angles. 4 equals 2, 5 is 7, and 10 is 2. So these are all equal to 180 as well, right? Next one is angle 3, 8, and 11. So 3, 8, and 11. This one's not going to work, right? Because 3 and 11 are both obtuse. So they're both, when you add them together, it's going to be over 180 already. So it's just 1 and 2. Alright, so this looks factorable. Whenever you see something that looks factorable, you'd better try factoring it, okay? So x plus y and x minus y is equal to 49. Now, that's nice because we know that x minus y is 7. So we can plug in a 7 for this. Okay? Then all we need to do is divide both sides by 7. This cancels, right? And 49 over 7 is just 7. So we've now determined that x plus y equals 7. And usually that's what this question will ask for. But in this case, they don't ask for that, right? So at this point, we actually have to solve a system because we know that x minus y was equal to 7. Okay, well that's fine. So if we add these lines, we get 2x equals 14, so x equals 7. And y would actually equal 0. So they're asking for x, which is choice G. Right, so this one we have to use our subtraction rule. Subtract these exponents. We get a to the power 6. What is the perimeter of this polygon? Right, so polygon below, right, so originally this was 14, but then it cut down to 10, so this must be 4, this little dotted line. And similarly, this whole thing was 10, and now it's 7, so this must be 3. So that means this hypotenuse here would be 5, 3, 4, 5 triangle. So now we simply have to add the values that were given here. So we'll do, let's see, we'll do 14 plus 7 plus 5 plus 10 plus 10. That'll give 46. A circle in the standard coordinate plane has center -4, 5, so those are going to switch to 4, -5. So it's going to be this one right off the bat. It's between D and E, but E has got a minus, which is supposed to be plus. For the triangle shown below, what is the value of the tangent of x? So the tangent, of course, is opposite over adjacent. And so from x's perspective, this is opposite and this is adjacent. So the tangent of x is going to equal 15 over 8. If you have enough material to build a fence 120 feet long, if you use all of it to enclose a square region, how many square feet will you enclose? Okay, so a square region, meaning that whatever the dimension is, it's going to be the same thing all around. So that 4 times that dimension x has to equal 120. So if you divide by 4, you find that x would equal 30. And the area that it would enclose is the area for a 30 by 30 situation, which if you multiply those together, you get 900. For what non-zero number k does the quadratic have exactly one real solution? Alright, so let's see. So this is the nature of the roots question, so we need to look at the discriminant, which is the part that goes under the square root sign for the quadratic equation. So anyway, here a is equal to 1, the coefficient. B is equal to, the coefficient of your y term is 2k, and the coefficient of the c term is the whole thing, it's just 4k. So now b squared is 2k, quantity squared, minus 4 times a times c. Right? So 2k squared, you have to square both pieces, so you get 4k squared, minus 16k, right? So that's your discriminant. Now, if you want just to have one real solution, what that means is that you're going to have a repeated root. And when you have a repeated root, that means that the discriminant is equal to 0. And if you're not sure why that is, right, when you look at the, sorry, this should be negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. When you look at the quadratic equation, we can say, right, that whole thing is just the square root of the discriminant d. So if d equals 0, then you end up with a 0 here, right? So that the plus or minus doesn't do anything. The plus or minus is what gives you the two roots in the first place. So if the discriminant is 0, the plus or minus does nothing, and it just gives you the value of negative b over 2a for your root, your one single repeated root. So anyway, we set this thing equal to 0, and we factor it, and that'll find us the value of k. So we can factor out of 4k, right? We're left with k minus 4 equals 0. So you t-chart that, you get k equals 0 or k equals 4. And they're looking for the one which k equals 4. In triangle ABC below, points B, D, and C are collinear. Segment AB is perpendicular to BC, and segment AD bisects angle BAC. So this angle is bisected into two equal parts. If the measure of angle DCA is 60, so DCA is 60. What is the measure of angle ADB? ADB. So we're looking for this. Alright, so the first thing I notice is I have 90 and 60 for the big triangle, so the big triangle must have 30 here. And then since it's bisected, it's equal parts, so it's 15 on either side. Now, looking at this left-hand triangle, I have 90 and 15 and x. So I can figure out x. Just add those together. I get 105. Take that away from 180, and I get 75 for x. Right, so anytime you see something that looks factorable, you should factor it. Bring this down. This tells me that the signs are different. And factors of 8, 1, and 8, 2, and 4. Those have a difference of 4, so 4 and 2. Now, for the top, I could factor out an x, and then I'll have 4 minus x, right? Good. So at this point, it looks almost as though the 4 minus x and x minus 4 can cancel, but they're sort of the wrong way around. So the thing to do with that is you cancel them and then you write a negative sign anywhere. I like to write it right there. So I get negative x over x plus 2. And that is choice F. If the circumference of a circle is 4 pi over 3, and I also know the circumference formula is 2 pi radius, then I could set this equal to 2 pi radius, right? I'm going to solve for r, so I got to divide by 2 pi on both sides. This already has a denominator. I don't need to make a new one. I could just put this in the denominator on this side. 2 pi's cancel, so I'm left with r. The pi here cancels, okay? So I got 4 over 3 times 2 is 6. So that reduces to 2/3, right? If the function f satisfies this equation, what are the possible values of f of 1? So you're plugging in 1. Yeah, this one is a bit tricky. So it's to do with linearity, and little trick that you learn if you study this in college is, you could find the value of f of 1 by plugging in f of 0 plus 1, which is going to be f of 0 plus f of 1, and then you can minus f of 1 from both sides, and you learn that 0 equals f of 0. So it must be the case that you go through the origin for this linearity condition. So that's really the only thing that's demanded. But the value at x equals 1 could be as high as you want it to be. There's really no restriction on that, so I claim that it's any real number. The area of the trapezoid below is 24 square inches. Okay, area is 24. The altitude is 3, so that's the height. The length of one base, B1, is 5. What is the length B of the other base? Right? So we'll call it B2. Right, so this is a trapezoid. We need the area for a trapezoid formula, which is the average of the bases times by the height. So we take the average of the bases, so it would be basically 5 plus B2 over 2, and then times by the height, which is 3, and then all of that's supposed to equal 24. Right? And yeah, we could bring this across and put parentheses on this guy. So now, really the 2 is the only thing that's on the bottom here. Okay. Let me just write this neatly. So then I can multiply both sides by 2. 2 would end up going over there. And so that makes 48. So 48 equals that, and then I could divide by 3 on both sides. Okay, and that would make 16. And then I could subtract 5 from both sides, and that would make 11 for B2. A, B, and C are consecutive positive integers. Okay. 2 to the A times 2 to the B times 2 to the C equals 512. Then, okay. So right away, when you see the same base raised to different exponents, the thing to do is to add the exponents. So we should get A plus B plus C in the exponent equals 512. Now we should recognize that 512 is a power of 2. You may not know which, but it's actually 2 to the 9th. If you didn't know that, you can start experimenting with trial and error on your calculator, doing 2 to various powers. So here we can then set A plus B plus C equal to 9, because these 2's sort of drop out. Now, if you have 3 numbers that add up to 9 and they have to be consecutive, right, we can figure out what they should be. So, right, you could just try values, but 1 and 2 and 3 doesn't work. What about 2, 3, and 4? 2, 3, and 4 would be 7, and 2 is 9. So that would work, right? So I found the values. Now I just have to plug in. So 2 squared, 2 to the 3rd, 2 to the 4th. So 2 squared is 4, 2 to the 3rd is 9, 2 to the 4th is 16, 16 to 4 is 20, 29. is what I'm getting here. Did I do this right? 2, 3, and 4, 7. Okay. So why did this not come out right? Let me just double check my math here. 2 to the 9th, 512, yeah. Consecutive positive integers. So the 2, 3, and 4. 2 squared. Oh, 2 to the 3rd is 8, not 9. Whoops. So that would be 28, right? If 30% of x, so that's 0.3 times x, equals 60% of y, so that's 0.6 times y, which of the following expresses y in terms of x? So we just get y by itself, divide by 0.6, and you'll find that y equals, well, this is really a half, right? So y is equal to half of x, also known as 50% of x. For which values of x would this be true? So the first thing I would do is divide by 3 both sides. This cancels, right? So I get x plus 4 greater than or equal to 9 over 3 is 3. Okay. Then let's see, I could distribute the 3 here. That would give me 12 plus 3x. Okay. Then I could subtract, well, I'd better subtract the x this way. Then I would get 2x, and then I could subtract 12 this way, and I would get negative 8, and then I could divide by 2. So I get negative 4 greater than or equal to x. And if I pancake this thing, I'll get x less than or equal to negative 4. So by pancake, what I mean is I take this thing and I sort of flip it over like a flapjack so that the inequality sign would also switch around. So 53, x equals this, y equals that. Which of the following expresses y in terms of x? So what I would do, y equals 9 plus a. My 9 and a look alike, so I'll try to make that a little more clear. X equals 6a plus 3, right? So the thing to do here, since we want y in terms of x, we don't want this a here, so we have to get rid of it. To get rid of it, we need to isolate a in the other equation. Okay? So we subtract 3 from both sides. X minus 3 is 6a. Divide by 6. And that gives us a, right? So we can then plug this in to the other equation. So y is equal to 9 plus x minus 3 all over 6. Is that a choice? Doesn't look like it, right? So what we need to do is combine these into one term. So we need a common denominator, which is going to be, all right, 6. So 9 times 6 is 54. So that would be 54 over 6. We could then group that in. 54 minus 3 is 51. So 51 plus x over 6, choice E. ABCD is a trapezoid that is bisected by line PQ, which is parallel to lines AB and DC. If the length of line DP is 8 units, so DP here is 8 units, the length of line PA is 12 units, and the length of AB is 36 units. What is the length of PQ? So this would be x. So here we're going to use the concept of similar polygons, right? So we're using the big trapezoid along with the smaller trapezoid here. Okay. So I'm just going to outline the smaller one in purple, and then the bigger one you can clearly see is already noted. So anyway, I have to set the corresponding parts equal. So the corresponding part, let's see. How do I do this? Let me think for a moment. Right. Won't that be equal? Okay. Alright, yeah, actually I've decided that instead I'll use this smaller one here as my second instead of the big one, right? So the first one is already outlined in purple, and then the purple jagged one is my second one. So first of all, I'm going to use the left-hand side. So the left-hand side of my first one is 12, the left-hand side of the other one is 8. And then I'm going to use the top side. So the top side here is 36, the top side here is x. Alright. Then I can sort of cross multiply and find my answer. So 12x equals 36 by 8, and then divide by 12. And I find x equals, well, 36 over 12 is 3. 3 times 8 is 24. So that's k. Alright, so the total weekly profit P in dollars from producing and selling X units of a certain product is given by this function. If 75 units were produced for a profit of this, what is the value of C? So they're giving us the input and the output to use. So the output here is 3365. The input value is 75 units. Okay. So grab the calculator and get to work. Okay. So 225 times 75. All right, that's 16,875. We can then subtract that to the other side if we prefer. So yep. So we'll get negative 13,510. Negative 13,510 equals negative of this, 165 times 75 plus C. Alright, so we do the 165 times 75, and that gives us a value of 12,375. 12,375. Okay. And then we could add that to the other side. So we can do 13,510, right? We could do that minus the 12,375. So that gives, right? So you end up with, they differ by 1135, right? 1135. You just need to know which sign to use. So which of these numbers is greater? Because when you add this, the negative is going to win, right? What's the sign of A? So we could drop this thing down here, and then we have a little right triangle. So the sign of A would be opposite over hypotenuse. So this 4, 4 means that this measurement is 4 over and 4 up. So the opposite is 4. And then this would have to be 4 radical 2, because you have a sort of a square here with 4 and 4, right? So it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So it's x, x, x rad 2 is the ratio of sides. If you didn't know that, you can use Pythagorean theorem with these two and find the third side. But anyway, opposite over hypotenuse, right? Those 4's will cancel. You'll get 1 over radical 2. But that's not acceptable because it has a radical in the denominator. So we need to rationalize it. So we do that thing here. we get rad 2 over 2, which is choice J. For all real integers, which of the following is always an even number? Right away I'm jumping to the bottom one where I could factor out a 2, and then I have x squared plus 2. So if you notice, since I factored out a 2, 2 is a factor, right? And that's the definition of being an even number, is that you have 2 as a factor. So I would say yes. Same thing for choice 2 here. I could factor out a 2 here, and I see that 2 is a factor again. All right? With this one, 2 is not necessarily a factor. So I would say 2 and 3 only. Carol has an empty container and puts in 6 red chips. She now wants to put in enough white chips so that the probability of drawing a red chip, okay, probability red, she wants that to equal 3/8, right? That's going to equal sort of red over total, right? So, let's see. So, well, how many red chips are there? There's 6 red chips, right? Over, she don't know how many white chips to put. So far she has 6 chips in there, plus W for the number of white chips she's going to add. She needs this to equal 3/8, right? So let's set that equal to 3/8. So we can cross multiply. That will give us 48 equals 3 times this, and then I could divide by 3. Alright, so that'll give us 16 is equal to 6 plus W. Subtract 6 and you get 10 equals W. So if you add 10, then you'll have sort of 6 over 16, which would reduce to 3/8. Yeah. A wheel 27 inches in diameter rolls along a line. So how many inches does the wheel roll along a line in 32 revolutions? Okay. So we are really interested in the circumference here, because if you want to know how far a wheel is going to go in one rotation, it goes the distance that it is around in a circle. So that's the circumference. Circumference formula is 2 pi r, also known as pi times diameter. The diameter is 27. So we have 27 pi for our circumference. Okay? 27 pi. Now, if we want to go 32 revolutions, we have to multiply this number by 32 in order to equal the amount that we're going to travel. So 27 times 32 is 864 pi. For any real number a, the equation this equals 5 on a number line. How far apart are the two solutions for x? Okay. So my favorite way to interpret this is to have this be your sort of favorite number and this be your allowance on either side. Okay? So here's my favorite number 2a, right? And my allowance, this would make 2a minus 5 and this would make 2a plus 5. And these are my points, and of course they're away from each other by 10 units because it's twice the allowance. Now, if you didn't know how to do that, I suppose you can solve each one out. So anytime you have an absolute value, you always split it into two equations, right? So the first one would be x minus 2a equals 5. The other one would be x minus 2a equals negative 5. You'd solve each one for x by adding 2a. So you get x equals 2a plus 5, and then plus 2a, x equals 2a minus 5. So these are your two solutions for x, and then to find the distance between them, you have to take their difference. So minus 2a minus 5, and then when you distribute that minus sign, you get, let me just do this more carefully. So you have 2a plus 5 minus 2a minus 5. Distribute that minus, and you get minus 2a plus 5. And then the 2a's will cancel, and 5 and 5 is 10, right? So that's another way you can do that problem.